again, everybody. Hope everybody's having a start to a week that is awesome. Man, it has been a little while. It's been a little while because I really haven't had the opportunity to stop everything I've been up to. Lots of stuff going on around the Mason household. A lot of things going on. Looking for different project cars possibly to bring into the fold. That whole process went belly up. So that isn't going to happen, at least not anytime real soon. Slash, what's up, man? So what I wanted to do for this video, kind of a quick video for you guys, go through some of the runs. In particular, the run that I put up, the ride along where I went 1028 with Revlon. So a couple of things. A lot of folks were saying that, the car, I've got to have extra timing in it. I've got to have this, that. Not same tune, just a trans tune, and all the seats are in it. It's got a rear seat delete, but aside from that, yeah, the passenger seat was in the car, drag pack, no speaker box. That's pretty much it. And oh yeah, by the way, obviously still running that that red eye drive shaft that multiple Mopars donated to the cause, and I can tell you, again, if you've got a Hellcat, best mod that you can buy if you've got a Hellcat Challenger, won't work on the Charger. But I wanted to go through some of the old time slips, because it doesn't really, I saw the video. You just don't have the time. So anyway, let me get you that 1028 time slip right now, and I'll show you guys a few of the other passes that the car made. Anyway, here is that 1028 right there. Hopefully that's focusing. Focus. Is that thing focusing? Anyway, there's the time slip for the 1028. Basically, it breaks down like this. Reaction time was an 093. 60 foot went a 148 with a 4. 330 went 426 with a 3. Eighth mile was 656. It's showing 107.87. I think that's a little bit high. But at any rate, it crept past the 1,000-foot mark at 857 to the tune of a 1028 at 129.92, which I know the thing's reading off just based on data. But anyway, ETs are correct. But there's your 1028. Along for the ride, there's a couple of other passes of note. Now, the track was hooking really well. That was at Houston Raceway Park, and track prep was fantastic. The only downside, oh, by the way, the DA was 0. The only downside to the night was there was a ton of street cars. It was chilly. Street cars were tearing the track up. It was all that they could do. The crew did a fantastic job trying to keep up with the track. The only downside is that there's only so much you can do when street tire cars are actively tearing things up. So the car did spin on one of the passes, but I wanted to give you guys some ideas as far as how the car was running. Subsequent passes, I was a little bit softer on the launch, but here's one of those 1030 passes. That is a 1031 with a 2. When a 150 60 foot, as you can see, I was just rolling into the throttle at that point. But there you go for that. Real quickly, went a 6.6 flat in the 8th on that pass. And then, last certainly not least, here is a 10.3 as far as how the car was running, what it was up to, just getting down the drag strip. Hopefully that is focused. But not too bad. Now, I will admit that the 30 passes, the 30, 31 passes were in negative DA. I think it was at least, it depends on which DA calculator you're looking at, but one of them was in negative DA, one of them was showing positive. So I was saying roughly 0 for these, the 30s. I was saying 0, the 28 came, depending on which DA calculator that you look at, some of them were just at negative DA, some of them were at like plus 200. So I figured split the difference, just call it 0 because it's a good baseline. It's at least a good goal. So, it just kind of goes to show. You don't have to do a lot to these Hellcats. If you want to take the thing out, have a great time, run some numbers, a gear, drag pack, little bit of weight reduction in the form of a Mopar rear seat delete, and you're pretty much good to go. Again, I've got a little bit in the car as far as the transmission tune, and obviously there's some engine tuning in there that you have to jump in the middle of, because if you don't, the stuff downstream in the transmission won't work properly. But that's all that's done to the car, aside of a little splash of 100 unleaded. But one of the funny questions is the car running catalytic converters? Yes, it's running the factory stock catalytic converters, along with, and I still have the box sitting here from a while back, the model filter LX3482. That's the air filter that is currently in the car. I do not remove my air filter. I know a lot of guys do. I don't, because I'm lazy, and it's running in the tens with the filter and the catalytic converters and everything else. Oh, and I just got it inspected. Of course it passed with flying colors because it's stock. It's hard to beat that. So anyway, oh yeah, drinking Big Red in honor of the fact that yesterday was my 1 year anniversary with Revlon. So I'll be doing a 1 year recap with the Hellcat here pretty soon. But yeah, Big Red, Code Red is now 1 year in the garage. So let's see, let me catch up with everybody. Let me say what's up to everyone that's in the mix. I already said what's up to Slash. Little Sutton saying what's up. Slash saying 1028's amazing balls. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Mike Corleone, got it. I like it. Good evening to you too, sir. Dr. Def, what up, B? Revlon's been killing it. Yeah, she's been doing a pretty good job of it, man. Sean East checking in saying congrats on Ice 1028. I have a little present coming in the mail, so I'll watch my Hellcat a little bit harder. That's right. You got a drive shaft coming from yours truly. CJ Colvin's checking in. Good evening, B. What's up, man? How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Fast Man's checking in. Red Eye drive shaft is VIN locked. Boo-hoo Mopar. Yeah, double middle fingers to that. Let me tell you something stupid about that. How are you going to VIN lock a drive shaft of all things? Mopar, FCA. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life. And it just goes back to stuff that I've said before, where I could go into any Chevrolet dealership and buy ZR1 parts. If I just wanted to decorate my wall or my ceiling, I certainly could do that. But I can't do that with Mopar parts unless I drag up a VIN and say, hey, I want to get a Demon hood, or pick side, doesn't matter, a Red Eye drive shaft. It just blows my mind that that's how they're going about that. And my way I look at it is, if they're making parts, they need to sell them, and this is a solid upgrade for any Hellcat owner. In fact, I would go so far as to say it should be mandatory, as well as making that 309 gear an absolute option for those guys that are ordering their cars up. As far as why they don't allow you to option a 309 with a Hellcat, but you can with a Red Eye. If anything, it should be the other way around. It's ridiculous. Shawnee's saying, new potential vehicle project fell through. Yeah, a couple of them did. So as you guys know, I've been looking into potential vehicles to kind of bring into the fleet, so to speak. And I went and looked at a couple of trucks this weekend. Unfortunately, they just were not going to cut it for me. There's a certain level of road killishness that I'm just not going to get to. I'll spend the extra money. If I have to save up for a little bit longer, I'll do that to get exactly what I'm looking for. I just haven't really found exactly what I'm looking for yet. So, but aside from that, the right one's going to show up. I mean, it's a truck. It's not like they didn't make a bazillion of them. So I can take as much time as I need. So I'm probably going to invest a little bit in the house, probably build on to the house a little bit, make working on these things a little bit easier in the process. Once I get that aspect done, then I can start refocusing on a project vehicle. But we are looking at trucks, and that's really the direction I want to go. I've given up on the Dodge truck. Just forget it. It's not even worth my time to look anymore. They don't exist in the wild, and the ones that I've seen have had just so many issues that it wasn't even going to be an option. Boxy Chevys are the way that I would like to go. But Right now, they are ultra hot in the marketplace, and they're commanding a freight train load of money for what you're getting. I mean, you know, $2,500, $3,000 trucks are selling for, or they're asking $5,000. I mean, we can't even have a conversation at that point. You know, some guys say, what about your wife's Camaro? My wife's Camaro is my wife's Camaro, and you know, as we get the time, I'll play with that. But it's a running, driving, fun thing. There's really not a whole lot to do to it, other than some cosmetic things, and that's totally fine. So that's what really more what we're gonna be doing with that car. But as far as getting in there, making something fun at will or whatever, I can tell you that Ford is on the back burner, more than likely Chevrolet, and almost, unless something just pops out of the freaking woodwork, it ain't gonna be a Dodge. I can tell you that right now. And again, for several reasons. One, so to jump in the middle of that, why not Dodge? Well, for one, not many of them come up for sale. Number two, the ones that do come up for sale typically are 6-cylinder trucks. Not a big deal. The only problem is that 904 transmissions suck and can't really handle power, and they also come with a weaker rear end. Not to mention, it's not a V8, so I got to get V8 motor mounts. Oh yeah, and an engine and a transmission, as opposed to just doing rebuilds. So I don't know what it is about Dodges and them being 6-cylinders, but a lot of the guys that bought Dodges bought the 6-cylinders probably because they're the cheapest truck you could buy. And if you wanted a V8, you went with a Chevrolet or a Ford, and that's kind of what I'm running into right now. So anyway, that's the latest on that. David saying, I want a 2019 Scat Pack wide body. They're nice cars. They handle really well too. And they look great with a drag pack. Luke Richardson is saying that he's been thinking about buying a Ford F-350 with a 6.4 Power Stroke diesel. First thing I'm going to do is buy one. When he buys one, is cut the EGR and DPF off. A lot of guys are doing that. If you can get away with it, then, you know, I know a lot of the diesel stuff is, there's a lot more involved with the diesel stuff, but yeah, I've heard of a lot of guys going that route. So that's the route you're going to go. I say go for it. Let's see. I don't know if I missed something from Doc here. Let's see. David Raymond saying, Hellcat is beyond my financial reach. It was beyond my financial reach too until this one popped up on a really good deal on the used market. Dr. Div saying, then someone stole Jesse wheelchair. Sorry, piece of shit, so he just left. Oh, wait, hold up. What did I miss? Looks like I missed a comment there. Doc, sorry about that, man. It sucks to hear about the wheelchair. That 392 saying, what is the best way to go E85 or flex fuel on a 392 Scat? Well, first of all, you need to make sure that's really the direction you want to go, because you're not going to be turning enough RPM, and unless you've got a cam and an intake, maybe even heads, bump and compression, pistons, it's going to be tough to really honestly take advantage of E85. You'll pick up some torque, but the problem is you need an intake to help the thing breathe on the big end, or E85 is really not going to help you out on the big end on a 392. You will pick up torque though. You've got enough pump right now. You just need to run a basically a set of like FIC 650cc injectors, and obviously the tune to go along with it. There is no flex fuel option at this time for Mopars. I know that Livernois had something going on with the Trackhawks. I've seen that kit fail, so I can't really say that that's the direction that I would go if it were me. If you want to make the plunge, you're going to have the software and an interface for whichever tuning software you want to run with, and just be able to switch the tunes. Right now, there's no way to actually run true flex fuel. It's either E85 or gasoline. There is no in between. MD also saying, congrats on the pass. So far, my best at 1088 at 129 on my bum stock ride with just tires. That's actually really good. Let the air cool off and you will be in even better shape. Shawnee's saying 1019 is not out of your reach. Pull a sway bar, which is easy, and passenger seat, and negative 500 DA. Agree, disagree. I could actually do it in zero DA. I wouldn't need negative if I pulled the sway bar and if I pulled the seat. The only thing is that requires effort on my part, and I am inherently a lazy person when it comes to pulling parts off of my car that aren't permanent removal situations. In other words, if I'm taking something off the car, it's never going back on the car. So at this point, the only weight savings thing I can think of would be the aluminum bumper supports front and rear. Save a grand total of 40 pounds though, and I'm just, I don't know. I don't know that it's actually worth it. And here's the other thing too. My car is running 1020s and zero DA. It's going to be real hard for anybody to claim the same on stock timing with just a gear, a trans tune. It's one of these things where it's kind of an obscure package that really does seem to work very well. Also, my car responds well to 100 octane fuel. Some don't, but mine does. And in saying that, it's not any different than anybody just using the fuel as an insurance policy when you go to the drag strip. I'm not trying to get more power out of it. I'm just trying to keep it safe, because I know what happens in low DA conditions with high horsepower cars, boosted, that are heavy. No, so at any rate, it's tough for me to say that, how much quicker could I get it? I mean, if I just want a piece of paper that says something, I could probably do that. But realistically, if I'm going to take something off of the car, I'm going whole hog. I'm going bumper supports, front sway bar. Rear seat is already out, so I got passenger seat. I'm going to be looking for weight everywhere, not just, the passenger seat itself. And I'm not worried about running, I'm not worried about a record either. That's the other thing. There's so much BS that goes back and forth with this record chasing thing, and all I can say is this. I know what I ran. I've put out there what I've run. I've got a video of the car running it. I've just posted up a time slip along with a couple of others. I've given you the exact combination that I'm running down the drag strip with. I mean, I can spot the bread, the ham, and the mustard. I just can't make the sandwich for you, okay? If I can't make it any more simple. I'm on my way to running possibly in deep negative DA at the track rental, possibly some teens or low 20s. And if anybody else can claim the same with a car on stock boost, not on E85, stock timing, great, that's awesome. But I don't care. So there's that. I give it. I care about, people that I care about. I don't, somebody's saying, I've run, 980s. Fucking gives a shit. Go put your thing back together. Call it a car when you get done with it. All right. Who else is in? Luke's saying, seems like emission controls on diesel engines are the killers. They can be. Oh, Morpheus saying, if you can find one, grab a 7.3. Yeah, no doubt. Jay's checking in. What's going on, BM? What's up, man? Let's see. CJ's checking in with us again, saying I put the Borla S-Type exhaust on his 2011 F-150 with a 5-liter instead of the Borla Attack. Because the Attack is just way too loud. Slash was saying, go Big Red, Huskers, I like it. Shawnee, what was a fast year since you got Revlon? I call my car Big Red, as you know. That was a fast year. Yep, absolutely. Mofo Phantasm, congrats on a 1028. That's legit. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. But the funny thing is in looking at these time slips, I got to be honest, if I wasn't being such a little bitch with the way I was launching the car, it spun hard. It got some pretty significant wheel hop too. That's another reason why I hate going to the track with street tire guys, because no matter how much you try to stay on top of track prep, especially when it's cooler outside, you get street tire guys out there, they're going to tear the track up. It's going to cause that kind of an issue. You end up breaking your car in the place. But really a more impressive run, if I'm being honest, was the 1030 and the 1030 pass, the 1030 and 1031 pass. Both, obviously, they didn't show the same number, but my gosh, they were so close. So very close. I mean, anyway, the car was on a hunt on both passes. It was a little bit stronger on the big end. On those, although technically slower, it was just me not launching the thing as hard. Again, just, once, it only takes one time at the drag strip and you just, you guys know that if busted them loose and gotten a wheel op, it can be a little bit spooky. Let's see. Loud Dakota saying, what's made you stick with Mopar through all your years in mechanical experience? I've just always liked them. They always offered something a little bit different. They always offered something that was a little bit cooler. For me, I just was always attracted to Mopar for some reason. Not that I didn't like Fords and Chevrolets. I mean, I've had Fords and Chevrolets and have loved them, but I don't know, Dodge always seemed to do things a little bit differently. They're always a little bit more performance oriented in one way, shape, or form. So, and if nothing else, they faked it really well. And everybody that ever drove Dodges always seemed to have more fun with their stuff. So, anyway, they are a little bit limited though by the aftermarket, but those were always the guys that could seem to get more out of stock parts, and that was, I guess, the actual real hot rodder part of me. That's where that came from the Mopar guys, because, I haven't ever done a video on this, but it's something that I would always hear as a kid. You would hear this built not bought. My car is built not bought. Well, it's bullshit. What heads are on it? Edelbrock. Okay, you bought those. You didn't port them yourself. That's not a stock casting. You didn't take those heads off of an engine in the car, set them on your workbench, grind them, do the bowl work yourself, put them back on the car or truck, and take it out. Get started on Friday when you get off work and you're hot rodding Sunday afternoon. These guys are talking about built not bought, but they're buying parts. They're buying Edelbrock heads or a Wind intake, and it's not built, it's assembled. It's like saying, here's an erector set that I bought. I assembled a little crane, as opposed to getting flat bar, a drill, a Dremel, and a saw and making the pieces yourself. That's building it yourself. And anybody that tells you differently is bullshitting themselves, because they didn't build it, they bought it. And even worse is when they would pay somebody else to do the work. It always seemed like Mopar guys would take the stock parts, hot rod the stock parts. They would always seem to do the work themselves, and that meant something to me. So I guess that's why I was always more attracted to the Mopar guys and the Mopar the Mopar vehicles, was because the guys that were working on them were true hot rodders, as opposed to just somebody swapping parts and saying, here's your hot rod, pay me. It was always cooler to learn from the guys that were doing it themselves, because the aftermarket really didn't help the Mopar cause. And it was cool to hear the guys saying, yeah, I walked all over this guy with his 318. The guy had a 350 with Edelbrock top end kit. He had a bunch of stock parts with maybe a camshaft. That's the only thing that was bought out of the car. And it was hanging with or beating these Chevrolets and Fords. So anyway, that's probably why Mopar for me. But as I've gotten older, I can see the logic in buying some stuff. Let's see. Let's see. Sean's saying, why not a Ford F-150 with a nice stroker Windsor? You know a lot about those engines. I do. I know a ton about those engines, and I haven't ruled that out yet. But here's the thing. When it comes to Windsors and stuff like that, yeah, it would be cool to get like a 94 Ford F-150, build kind of a Lightning clone out of it, do a 408 with, and talking about built not bought, I'm going right into AFR 205 heads with, and just build something really nice, assemble something really nice, I should say in this case. but again, it's just what it's gonna be is it's gonna be finding the right one, and you know, when I find the right one, it'll be the right one. And so far, I haven't found the right one. So, like I said, I'm just gonna focus on the house for now. Focus on Little Miss Revlon. She is on a hunt right now, so I'm not gonna take anything away from her. I'm just gonna let her keep, you know, keep doing what she has been doing. Let's see, Sutton saying, I have a 392 Scat with mid-muffler delete. Long story short, I'm getting a rattle from the front side. I think I've had active exhaust valves, which were rattling also, and deletes checked, but still getting rattle at low RPMs. It's killing me. Probably is because it's resonating all over the place. A lot of guys that have done the mid-muffler delete, that's the one thing that they find is that you might start getting some rattling or some resonance in there. Could be causing that. Dr. Div saying he's got an 87 square body at the shop right now. We're doing a 4-link front and rear tube 4x4 on 40 and 1 tons. It's going to be cool when it's done. Yeah, and if you can find me a square body or anything like that down in your neck of the woods, by all means, brother, why don't you let me know? I am in the market, but dude, they're just going for stupid money. The thing is that this square body thing is going to come up and it's going to fall down pretty quickly, and you know, I don't know. As I was talking to my wife about it, you know, after we get done with the house, there's other trucks out there that I would actually probably start to prefer, especially considering some of the garbage that I've been seeing coming up for sale. Stuff looks like it was dredged out of the bay. There's some newer, safer stuff already comes from the factory with all the right parts, so that might be a direction that I start maneuvering into. We'll see. Muscles SRT8 talking about turning it into a Hellcat killer, whatever. So the twin turbo 426 stroker. It's a Hellcat killer. Oh, what a douchey. You know, okay, here's the funny thing. Put him on a tire, got Revlon sitting right here. Bring it. Bring it. Open invitation. Hell, I'll even pay for the track rental. We'll go right over here to Houston Raceway Park and let's see if that car can kill a Hellcat. Certain little ZL1 running around out there right now that thought he was going to get a kill on Revlon on Friday night did not go the way he planned. Last Friday the DA wasn't quite as good and she was running 40s all night long. Let's see. Jay's saying, oh, he's got a 19 Ram with a mid-muffler delete. If the rattle is from the interior, it's possible the exhaust vibration is causing it. Only the vibration will accelerate. Very common. You can also raise hell with, it's another thing about that stuff. If you don't have a tune on the car, it might not be a good idea to do a mid-muffler delete because although it doesn't make you lose power, if you've got rattles or other resonance going on because of the mid-muffler delete, it might piss off, not saying it does, there's a possibility it can piss off your knock sensors, have it yank timing. CJ saying, if you're looking for a project truck, I would go look into the 1996 Ford trucks. They are nice. I know it. I like Ford trucks. And they may be up for looks too. Symphonic saying, so did you read the Motor Trend article where they dynoed the new C8 at 558 horsepower to the wheels? I saw it, but I haven't read it myself. But I wouldn't be surprised if Chevrolet is sandbagging the living hell out of that car. But yeah, and I also saw where it went like an 11.1. So anyway, I've been keeping up with it, but let's see. A few guys going chatting amongst themselves. I like it. Let's see. David Raymond saying Ford F-150 with Coyote engine is very reliable. Good point. Not ruling it out. In fact, that might end up being on the short list. Could you imagine Coyote equipped base model F-150 short bed, oil pump gears, blower, done? I mean, that's kind of the recipe, right? But I don't know. I'm looking for something a little bit more NA than that, and also something I can have a little bit more fun with. not supercharged. I really don't know. I've had two Lightnings, and I wouldn't necessarily mind going back that route too, speaking of Fords, but again, good luck finding a decent one. Let's see. Yeah, Sutton's saying he's had the delete in his car and never heard those sounds. Yeah, I don't. So you just have to check it out. It's by like a by car basis. Oh, Speed Freak checking in. I like it. Saying, hey, Fresh Mason, just letting everybody know I finally got my cat. Nice. 2016 Challenger Redline Red Auto, 6,000 miles. Time to plan the build. I like it. Congratulations, man. That is awesome. You're going to love it. Got another red one running around. Of course, it is the fastest color, as you know. Let's see. Hang on. Andy's saying, thoughts on 392/Scat Pack for 30 grand versus used Hellcat for low 40. Man, it's going to depend on the Hellcat. I don't want to recommend against the Hellcat, but, you know, so on the Hellcat, how many miles? Is it stock? Do you have a running knowledge history on this car? Look it over, make sure it wasn't modded before. Why is the Hellcat going for low 40s? Is it real high mileage? 392 cars at about 30 grand are actually it's kind of a weird price point for those cars. It's still a bargain for what you're buying, but at that price point, you can get a Mustang or one of the new Camaros, those base model SS Camaros. So you just got to be real careful with it, man. Just keep this in mind. The Hellcat, no matter what, will always be a Hellcat. So there's that to consider. It will retain some level of value more than the 392, but if it's a Hellcat that looks like it's been just leaned on really hard, you might want to move away from it. My car, I don't think the trunk had ever been opened in my car, and I bought mine with just a little over 5,000 miles on it. I've put 5,000 miles on it in the year that I've owned it, and that thing sat. This thing actually sat for. It must have been, I mean, just only every once in a while taken out, or it sat for a pretty significant amount of time. And again, I don't think the trunk was ever open in my car before I bought it. So just something to consider. Shawnee's saying, congratulations, Speed Freak. Welcome to the club. Absolutely. Andy's saying, Orgo new 392 for low 40s. Man, again, with the Hellcat now being on the used market, it's making, you know, a lot of them are low mileage too, but it's just, be careful, you know what to look for. You can't go wrong with the new car. I will say this, the new cars, the Uconnect, way better than the older cars, just in terms of response time. Knowing what I know now, if your budget is $40,000, let's just be real for a minute. Your budget is 40 grand. You are not in acceptable Hellcat territory at $40,000 right now. You're just not. And I don't want to hear about, oh, well, I got a buddy that bought his Hellcat and it was $43,000 with 3 miles on it. And save it, man. Save it. It doesn't exist. But at 40 grand, put it like this, I wouldn't spend less, so I wouldn't spend less than about 45 or 47 on a Hellcat, because that ensures that I've got a clean ass example, typically, very low mileage. You start ticking the miles up, say 40, 50,000 miles on a Hellcat, that's gonna drive the value of that car down. But it's a more robust platform than the 392 is. Now, depending on the owner of the Hellcat, I may trust a 30,000 mile Hellcat or a 40,000 mile Hellcat more than I would trust, say, a 15 or a 20,000 mile 392 car. But if we're talking about a brand new car and you've got $40,000 as a potential budget, my suggestion would be to find a Scat Pack core. That's the direction that I would go. I would find a base model Scat Pack, or do a dealer search for a base model Scat Pack in the color that you're looking for, and that's the car that I would buy. that'll give you enough money left over in the kitty for a set of tires, you know, drag pack if you want to go drag racing or whatever, and that'll be a car that'll be a ball forever as long as you own it. So, and in that guise, it will last indefinitely. Just change the oil and you're good to go. So, but yeah, if you're looking to actually spend money, I would, you know, anything more than $40,000, I would say save up your money for a very low mileage Hellcat. And that's what I would suggest first. If not, then get the new car. Let's see. Loud Dakota saying, I heard, I'm just going to kind of go through some of these. 2018 up, you delete the actives, it'll throw a code. That's true for 15 and up, actually, and it will throw a code. CJ saying, another option to look for a project truck would be the 90s muscle trucks, either like the Chevy SS454, far too expensive right now, or the Ford F-150 Lightning. People think they won the lottery when they run across those trucks. So yeah, trust me, I've already looked into those. Every once in a while, I'll bump into a 454 SS, which is actually number 1 on the list. Or a true, honest to God, true 350 SS is actually what I would really prefer. But a 454 SS would be cool as you can imagine. Difficult, and they've typically changed hands too many times, and it's getting too much to be a pain in the ass. But if you know of one, let me know. Catalyst 99 say, which is better, getting a 5.7 Hemi and adding a supercharger or a turbocharger, or just buying a scat pack? Just buy the scat pack. If you're looking to do something like that. So here's the other side of that argument. Nobody really does anything with the 5.7 cars. Most Performance does a ton of the trucks. He's got, you know, Ernesto's truck is in the 11s. He's got his own truck that he's shooting for 9s with. You know, there's guys that do a lot of good work with the 5.7s, but the car guys just typically don't go that route. They're more interested in running that 392. I'll tell you that, in all honesty, the 5.7 is probably the more fun of the two if you want to just build something up quickly. But they're all expensive to work on. So for the money that you would put into a 5.7 car, you could have a quicker car with the 392. And that's if you've, you know, even with heads cam and some other things done to the 5.7, it's just not going to be as strong as the 392. It's just not. So for my money, I say 392. Unless you want to do a build and you want to have something you want to stay active with, then the 5.7 would be the way to go. Let's see. Jay's asking, BM, what's your opinion of Vera Rams? I think they look cool. Heard for the 5.7 Rams, they add a good amount of peak power, and throughout the power band, they don't. I've already track tested one with my brother-in-law and his truck, and it did nothing, but it does look cool. So at least there's that. Let's see. CJ's saying Dodge makes the best muscle cars, Ford makes the best trucks. They do make a really good truck. Let's see. Dr. Div say, woohoo, mine's considered built, not bought. Then absolutely. Yeah, you can't build your own power adder. That doesn't count. Let's see. Bear with me here. Try to get through some of you guys real quick. I know I might have to skip a few of y'all to get to where we're going here, so just bear with me. Oh. Just got through blasting through some of you guys. Sorry about that. I accidentally flipped my screen and it went nuts. Bear with me. Let's see. Shawnee's saying I put underdrive pulleys on my scat pack by myself, but I think I'm going to let professionals throw the lower on my Hellcat. Yeah, you're going to definitely want to do that. There's a reason why they do that stuff every day for a living. It's definitely not something you want to mess. Not something you want to mess with. David's asking, is it true that the 6.4 Hemi can't take a supercharger? Absolutely untrue. Those things take superchargers great. It's the transmission. It's stuff downstream from that engine that can potentially get hurt. I don't, for the life of me, understand why they put an HP 70 behind the 392, but in Dodge's infinite wisdom, I guess that was the thing to do. But no, yeah, you can put a supercharger on the thing. Just don't try to force feed it, 30 pounds of boost. If you want to build a boosted application, get yourself a Hellcat. They come from the factory already with a booster, and it does just fine. So, yeah, the 392 is really good at doing NA, but it does fine with the supercharger. It's just financially not really viable unless you're getting a 392 car for a screaming deal or you've inherited one. Then in that case, yeah, go for it. Just know that your transmission next on the list to fail. Our Garassi's saying, B, what's up? Got the arm flex thumbs up. I like it. Slash is saying, I'm trying to give you $5 super chat, but I'm too drunk to figure it out. Sorry, man. I've been there before, man. Hey, it's the thought that counts, brother. I appreciate it. Thomas Chavez is saying, hey, man, how are you? I'm doing well. I wanted to know if you could take a look at my truck's tune and data log. I don't do house calls on tunes and data log. It's working great, let it ride. Each one of these things is a little bit different too. So, and that's the reason why. I've looked at tunes that I thought were going to be garbage that worked great. My old truck is a perfect example of that. The tune on that truck, I just said it was far too, I don't know, a little bit light, but it worked great for that truck. So, as long as, take a look at your, the thing with your data log is short-term knock retard. Do you have a lot of it or do you not? That's the first thing you got to look for. Jay saying, B, I didn't know you were looking for a truck. I have a thought for you. I have the 392 gears and limited slip on mine. I think if you find a short bed with those specs and some mods, it'll be good. Oh yeah, no, finding a decent truck isn't that hard. It's finding a decent truck for a price that I want to pay. That's the main thing. I was looking at the boxy Chevys because I wanted something carbureted. If not one of those, then I'm going to bump right up to 96 so I can have OBD2 and all the data logging capabilities. My wife's Camaro is a 92, so it doesn't have any of that. So I screwed twice on that there. Anyway, but no, realistically, I think that, for me, that's just what I was looking for. That's what I was trying to find. I still haven't quite run into it yet. But it's cool. We'll get there. Get the house right first. But if something pops up in the meantime, we'll get here. Let's see. CJ's asking if I've heard of the Sinkhole at the Corvette Museum. Yes, I have. CJ's asking, what do I think of the G employees going on strike? Well, they have the right to unionize, so that's on them to do that. I don't really have a dog in that hunt, so I don't really have an ability to have an opinion of it. And it also depends on what they're asking for, and it depends on a lot of things that I just don't have. I can't post a sophisticated response to that because I just haven't looked into it. Could be a good thing, could be a ridiculous thing. Let's see, Andy's saying, thank you so much for the input. You got it. Hey, Shawnee, thank you very much. Saying, not too drunk for Super Chat. 5 bonus for 10. I like it. The 10th fund continues to grow, my friend. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's see. David saying, a used Hellcat in Massachusetts is between 44 and 48 with low miles, but I don't know enough if something went south on it to get it fixed. Yeah, and that's the thing. Obviously, there's a market correction that's going to take place there, right? So down here in the south, they go for a little bit more. Up north, maybe a little bit less. Yeah, that's just kind of the rolling market trend. But dragging one down from up north can sometimes be a bit risky. Number one, you got to pay for shipping, which is going to add a couple of grand at least to the cost. Not to mention, typically they're not driven in the winter, so you really don't have to worry about rust or anything like that. But the adjusted walking around price for a guy like me down here is around 45, minimum, I mean bare minimum, to just right at $50,000. Let's see, Jay saying, I once checked out a 15 Charger Hellcat almost a year ago. The car had right around 90,000 miles and had been in an accident. I'm pretty sure it was the highest mileage in the country. Good grief, man, that's brutal. Speed Freak saying, hey, I'm putting Nitto Tri-5Rs on my stock wheels for the street, planning on 18-inch Bravados for the rear with 305 ET Street Rs. What tire pressure should I run on the Tri-5s for the street? You need to run 32 PSI minimum. I've done pattern testing with those tires, and anything less than that, you can get into some some wheel hop with them. So 32 to 35, and just treat them like a normal street tire, basically. But again, if you try to go too low on a Tri-5R on that rim, you just don't have enough sidewall. It's only, well, it's only that wide, or that thick, or that tall, however you want to call it. And that's the problem you run into. The tire will cup right in this area if you don't run enough air pressure. And when I've done the pattern testing, even 32 PSI, you'd see it only left black marks right here on the outside part of the rim, nothing in the middle. Give it some more air pressure. To about 35, had a nice flat patch on the pattern. Let's see. Paul's asking, hey BM, with the pulleys you have on your car and the blower spacers, what belt size would I need? Thank you. For my pulleys, without the spacers, you can get away with the stock belt, but it is going to be tight. With the spacers, you get a half-inch, I believe it's half an inch longer belt, but it's going to be tight. Maybe 3/4 of an inch longer than stock is where I would start with that. It's going to be a little. Mine was tight getting the thing on with the 3-inch pulleys, but I can tell you that it wasn't like it was not doable. I just had to do some pretty creative things because I was doing all the work all by my lonesome. But again, yeah, the spacer's probably a half an inch is what, if I remember correctly. What do you think? Maybe 3/4 overstock. Sam Graham was taking in. Yo, B Mason. Yo, what's up, man? Shawnee's saying 30-ish PSI. Yeah, might want to check that out. This is for street use, not for the track. David Raymond saying, get a GMC Cyclone. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I knew a guy, I didn't know the guy, but there was a guy when I lived in Austin that daily, on pretty days, he drove a Cyclone back and forth to work. And I don't mean like on some pretty days. I mean, if it was not raining, he dailied that Cyclone. I want to say that his rain car was a Nissan Altima, but he drove that Cyclone freaking everywhere. Let's see. My tutorial for Android is saying, what is the top speed of your car in the back? This one, I don't know. I've never run it out, but in data logging, I've run it up to about 150. So, and it gets there like that. Got time. Is there a way to keep the active exhaust wide open all the times on an 18 Hellcat Charger? You're damn right there is. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. I do it in the tune. There are provisions in the tune to where you can just have them open all the time, no matter what, and you get the benefit of it sounding pretty good all the time, and it never throws a code. Let's see. Shawnee's stock Hellcat Challengers are rated at 199 miles per hour. That is very accurate. I think they're 199, 198, just under 200 miles an hour. Let's see. Symphonics is asking, how does Motor Trend expect us to believe that the C8 LT2 makes as much power to the wheels as the LT4? I don't know. Sam saying, man, it sucks. I hit a log off-road and lost steer. Let's see. Looks like he jacked something up on his truck. You get that fixed out, man. That's a safety issue. Saying it's odd that it still has its alignment. It probably knocked something off, knock mount or something like that. CJ saying, I know Eric the car guy has a 1990 Chevy Silverado he built called Dad's Truck. It's a 350 that's been bored and stroked. That 383 stroker making well over 400 at the crank. Yeah, there's a lot of those running around. Sam's talking about the V10 Dodge trucks. Yeah, not really my cup, not really what I'm looking for. But they are fun. Let's see. David's asking, how does the standard Hellcat suspension compare to the wide body? I like to have good handling in my cars, and the wide body scat is supposed to pull 0.97 on the skid pad. Standard Hellcat suspension, it's actually very similar. It's not really any different. Main difference between the two is in the wheel and tire package. Catalyst 99, do you ever use any radar detectors? No, I do not. Philip's saying, hey, B, got my 309 diff installed last weekend. Turned out great, but wheel hop is more noticeable. What is your opinion on the performance development brace? Looking at their latest version for an 18 Hellcat. I like them. Check your tire pressure first, though, and check to make sure that all your bushings look good underneath there before you get that, that brace. Let's see. Dr. Div saying, funny, just 95 Camaro myself, and surprisingly it has OBD2. Actually, I think some cars, some manufacturers started running that because I think OBD2 came out in 95 for California market. Looks like he's saying cook the trans. So I got everything to do a built trans and 373s. I'm keeping my S10 and teenager. It is getting the Camaro. It will be fun, man. I like it. Nice car and right up his alley with the LT. Very cool. Let's see. Sam's asking if I own a DRB scan tool. No, I don't. I just run everything through HP tuners, and that is it. You get a pass-through or something like that, but no. Don't mess with that. I'd love to get my hands on one, but no, not messing with it. If I did it more, if I was around this stuff more, I probably would, but no. CJ saying, or another option for a project truck is you can look for a really good condition old school F100 and do a Crown Vic front swap or a Crown Vic full frame swap. There's actually a guy that lives not far from me that just got through doing a full frame swap on that, on one of the F100s. Not sure if it worked out very well for him. Jay's asking, could you touch on the differences between a Hellcat engine and a Demon engine? There are a few things different, but what about bottom end strength? Okay, so starting at the bottom, the Red Eye and Demon, which is the same part number, better rods, better pistons by far. But aside from that, the heads are the same. The cam is slightly different. It favors the exhaust side a little bit more. The Supercharger is different. You've got a 2.7 liter Supercharger versus a 2.4 Supercharger, technically 238. But that pretty much wraps up all your differences. It's the internals are stronger on the Red Eye and on the Demon, but let's put things into perspective here. When you say something is stronger than a Hellcat bottom end, you're saying that it is stronger than a bottom end that can already, and that has already proven to be able to manage, 12 to 1300 horsepower at the flywheel, if not more in some cases, with the stock Hellcat bottom end. So the Hellcat is already unimaginably stout from the factory, but it's the RPM that hurts you, not the power. So just know that coming into it. The Red Eye and the Demon, I believe, have slightly lighter rotating assemblies just by the nature of the parts that they use. If you've ever seen one pulling apart, it almost looks like it's got molar pistons from the factory. So there's that. But it's mainly in the RPM capacity of that engine, really more than the power that you can make. So, for whatever. Sean saying, I'm going to go for a ride in a low-mile Demon tomorrow. How do Demon feel compared to my 309 Hellcat? It's going to feel snappier because it has a more sensitive throttle. But aside from that, not much different. Catalyst is asking, do you think the Hellcat engine will ever be offered in the Challenger? It's a good question. A lot of folks have been asking about that. I'm not sure. I don't know what Dodge is going to officially end up doing with the 426. It's been rumored that that's the engine that's going to power the Viper's replacement. It's been rumored that that's going to be what goes into the CUDA, which is what is going to be the Viper's replacement. There's been rumors that it's going to go into the next generation of the LX platform. I don't know, man. I would love to think that they would do something with it aside from just throw it out there as a crate engine, because all that tooling costs a lot of money, and they were selling that engine for like 30 grand or 25 grand, which is a ton of money for an engine and a blower assembly, but I don't know if they paid for all the tooling in the process. Maybe they did, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. They're having a hard time justifying going away from the 392 and the 6.2 the way that it sits now, just based on revenue, based on profit margin. So if they make a switch, it'll probably be for something that's one-off. It's going to be way up there in price. Dr. saying, it makes sense about OD2 in Cali in 95. This one is a California car and perfect shape. Everything works, including the Cali emissions air pumps. Nice. Let's see. Sam's talking about his truck running 80 miles an hour, 2,300 RPM, 4-speed auto, 4th gear overdrive. Cool. Jay saying, thanks for touching on that. I always wondered what the differences were, but all I could find was the heads are a little different, but not accurate. Thanks again. Yeah, the heads aren't any different. Like, as in no different. Shawnee checking out. He's got his car in with the potential supercharger issue, so he's going to find out pretty soon if he's getting a new blower or not. Vortex saying, what's up, Soul Snatchers? No, wrong channel. But what's up, man? Hope things are going well with the thumbs up. I like it. Soul Snatchers. I like it. Speed Freak. If I do a 309 rear remain stock with no tune, what can I expect on the street and track as far as feel? Will it be noticeable? You know, so here's the thing. There's some, if you put the 309 gear in the car with no tune, it will actually potentially feel a little bit softer until you really get into it. The main reason why is that with the 309 gear, there's just not as much for that torque to push against, so to speak. So it'll almost feel a little snappier with the 262 in some scenarios. Add in the driver command torque that's similar to, say, a Red Eye or a Demon, and that gets turned completely on its head. So you get all of that back. The main thing is at the drag strip, if you're running, you know, a drag pack and you're on a tire and you're at the drag strip, you'll notice two things. One, it will come out of the hole harder, but at the back half of the track, that's where you really notice the difference, where it just pulls and pulls and pulls on the back end of the track. Donald Power saying, I'll smell 2 to 3 10 cold air on the way. Yeah, we've been told it's supposed to be nice and chilly this Friday. So if it is, I'll run down there and see if I can't get a couple of passes in. But I will probably be kind of chilling out a little bit. I've got to get my rears rebalanced because it has been spinning the wheel inside of the rim or the tire. Spinning the tire. Son of a bitch. Perform. Okay, spinning the wheel inside the tire. But yeah, that's what's up with that. But yeah, if I get some decent air, I'll get out there and see if I can't crack a 10 in some. If we get just a little bit of negative DA, but without the headwind. Oh, that's the other thing. So that was a 1028 with a nasty headwind, by the way. So yeah, we're gonna go for some hopefully quicker ETs without the crazy headwind. Vortex saying, just seen the Demon head. Oh yeah. On the cover. That's the cat, man. It's not the Demon. Let's see. Sam saying, I'm looking into a new turbo for my 2015 diesel 3500. Any suggestions? I don't know, man. I don't know anything about diesels. Let's see. Oh, he's talking about, CJ's saying engine power took a 460 base big block. Yeah, that's an old one. Yeah, I made 840. I mean, great. I just don't want a big block. That's the other thing. I want something I can actually play with. And if I blow it up, I want something that's quick and easy and cheap to fix. Because I want something I can actually lean on and hoon around with and act stupid with. Something that's fast enough to be entertaining, but not so fast as to try to kill you every time you take it out and want to play. Let me put it to you like this. And I get a chance to drive everybody's really fast stuff, whether it's 9-second cars, 8-second cars, it doesn't matter. They're all the same to me. I have more fun with a mid 10-second car that I own than I have ever had with any of my very fast stuff or with customers' very fast stuff. But to me, there's something just intrinsically endearing, and it's adorable when you have a mid 13 or a mid 12-second car that just does everything that's fun, and it doesn't take you from zero to go straight to the bottom of the jail the way something like a Hellcat or a Mustang with a Supercharger or something like that will do. The creepy thing about cars like the Hellcat or like the Mustang with the blower is that they go from cruising highway speed to double the speed limit in an extremely short amount of time, and it's just and it's there. You never get that sense of I'm doing something and this is fun. It's never really fun because it doesn't really last that long. So anyway, that's really more the goal. It's not to try to build something with a bunch of power. I mean, power is easy to do. That's nothing. What's fun is building something that's fun and that you can actually be a little bit of a kid with and enjoy it. I don't take this stuff as seriously as a lot of these guys do. And that's probably why I've been more successful in terms of dragging ETs out of these cars. Is because I'm having fun with them. So, I don't know. It'd be one of those things where I'll do a build and, go out and start hurting people's feelings with my, with my side build that I'm doing. So anyway. I can't wait for the track. Absolutely. Cattle say, now the drag strip does doing a burnout potentially do harm than good to your car. It shouldn't hurt your car as long as it's in good condition. The only time that it will hurt your car is if you don't do like a single spin on the tire, get a little bit of water on it. But no, and that's only just because you're going to load up the rear end and the axles pretty hard if there's any VHQ right there in that general area. But no, it's not going to hurt your car. Shouldn't anyway. If it's in good, solid mechanical shape, it'll be fine. Let's see. Jeffrey saying, "What I got my Scat in the middle 11 stock tune. Very nice. I'm thinking about putting on the ProFlex Commander. Go for it. See how it works out for you, man." Let's see. Yeah, ProFlex is just a piggyback, so. Sam saying it's funny the Chevy 427 was a design borrow from Chrysler's Marine Division. No, it was not. Blocks are very similar to what's known as a ball stud Hemi. The Hemi that would have been the successor to the Hemi, which is just a canted valve engine. So, yeah, that's what it is, basically. So think, Cleveland heads, big block Chevy heads, what the ball stud Hemi, all that's very, very similar. And that would have been what was next. Dr. Dew saying, couldn't have said that better myself. I want something fun and took it to full race car fun. Not as much fun and more of a job now and afraid to break. It's fast, but horsepower isn't what it's all about. No, it really isn't, man. Fun is what it's all about. And, let's be honest. I mean, it's great to have a Hellcat, but, I mean, I don't need something. It's not pulling a plow, right? I mean, it's not. it's not a farm implement. It's fun. I enjoy this. This is why I work as hard as I do, is to be able to afford and to earn an ability to work on these cars and to do all that. So yeah, I mean, if you're not having fun, just don't do it, because you're going to get apathetic. You're going to get cynical about it. Just wrap it up. Send that project along to somebody who could actually have some fun with it. Let's see. CJ's saying a 3 1/4 or 306 would be more than enough for his 96. Absolutely it would. I've done a lot of those types of builds. Catalyst 99, methanol injection kit, worth bothering with or not? Please, no, don't. Just no. Look, I get it. A lot of guys hang on methanol. I understand all of that. I'm just not a fan, bro. Because look, here's the reason why. People will start to hang on methanol in the tune. If you're using methanol as a secondary insurance to your build, let's say you've got a Hellcat, and by the way, methanol and naturally aspirated is, you're not going to do that. You don't have near the compressor, just no. But if you're adding it to, let's say you got a Hellcat with a 285 upper, and you've got just a tiny amount that you're hitting it with ethanol just to be a little bit on the safe side, you'll be fine with that. But I try to discourage methanol injection because of distribution concerns. So just because you're squirting it into the throttle body doesn't mean that it's being atomized and spread evenly throughout all 8 cylinders. In a Hellcat, you're taking this stuff and you're hitting the throttle body with it. So part of it's hitting the throttle body. You're taking which is a nucleation site. Okay, we're going to start, you're going to hear me say nucleation site. Every time I say nucleation site, after this, you got to take a drink. Get ready. I'll wait. Got it? Okay, here's where it starts. Methanol sprays into, and it's atomized at this point, out of the nozzle into the inlet tract. Part of it hits the throttle body, comes out of atomation because the throttle body itself is now a nucleation site. All this atomized stuff hits it, puddles up. Okay? It's sucked through the inlet tract, hits the supercharger. Along the way, it is wetting the intake. The intake is now a secondary nucleation site. The same way that you wet the intake runners on a carbureted engine, that's what's happening with your inlet tract. Nucleation site. Third thing is the rotors. The rotors are spinning their ass off. It's like you've just thrown this atomized mix into a blender. What you gotta have. Nucleation site everywhere. So from there, it goes into where? The bricks, the cooling bricks. Nucleation sites about that long and about that freaking wide. And then into the inlet runners, where it could potentially slam into the back of the intake valve, another nucleation site. By the time it's all said and done, this stuff is just running all over the place. It's come out of suspension. And based on how the flow characteristics are, you may have more meth going to cylinder number 2 and 3, none going to number 7, a little bit going to 8, and a ton going to number 2. I don't know if that's how it works out, but it could. And it's not like having a direct injection setup, direct port setup with methanol. In that respect, I would go that route for a couple of reasons. One, you're cutting out all the middleman with the nucleation sites, and number 2, you're directly cooling that inlet charge at the intake valve, as opposed to heating the stuff up through the system in the process of coming out of atomization and just making a big mess. So anyway, that's my thoughts on meth injection. Dr. Diff saying Spark Knock's killing him. Man, I hate that. Yeah, I know. Sam said it's more fun driving an 8,500-pound truck fast than a fast car slow. It's actually more fun than driving a fast car fast in some cases. Rick's checking in. What's up, man? What's up? Chris Taylor saying, what up, Brother B? What's up, man? CJ saying it's been 3 days since my dad and I added a Borla Type S-Type exhaust to his truck with a Coyote. I'm just enjoying now. It makes me giggle. I like it. Slash is saying, in one of your early videos, you said turbos all the way for the 392 power adders. Do you still say that is the way to go? Yeah, I do. I don't like the idea of running superchargers on that car. They're cleaner, but if I were to do my dream build, it would actually mimic a lot of what horsepower TV or whatever the power block show it is. It would look a lot like that, but with a 6.4 and a Holley intake. So, I mean, for what it's worth, that's really the way to go as far as efficiency, power, all of that. You just can't beat turbos. And because the car is so heavy, and the way that those turbos would work with the automatic, it's just almost like a no-brainer. Just keep the turbo size relatively small, keep boost around, 8 psi, 7 psi, and you'll have something that's going to make a decent chunk of power, probably close to 580, 590 to the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno, which is right there in Hellcat territory, but it would probably make a little bit more torque than the Hellcat. So again, just some things to consider. And the upshot is that if you ever want to make more power, it's just easier with a turbo to make power more efficiently. And a lot of that has to do with downstream air temperatures and stuff like that. So anyway, just my thoughts on on the actual power adder itself. Now for I don't know, man. I might be changing my tune a little bit. Those are some clean kits, but I don't know. I'd like to do something maybe a little bit different though, and probably go turbo anyway. So let's see. Talking just saying half trunk now. Exactly. Chris Taylor, how's the cat running? She's running good, brother. She's running good. We're hurting a lot of feelings with her, as a matter of fact. Thumbs up. I like it. Let's say 1028 and a string of 1030s the other night. Still running stock timing. Rip saying, I drove fast to get home just to make it to the chat. Man, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Sam saying, thoughts on a Procharger versus a turbo on a 5.7? I think I kind of touched on that already. Procharger, they're not bad. Look, they get a bad rap because they kind of underperform based on the number that they throw up on a dyno. But man, look, they do just fine. I would say if it's my car, I'd go turbo, but if given the option, I wouldn't go either one. Really, for a 5.7, I'd stick with the E-Force and call it good. Jay Yeager's saying, I have a 19 Challenger Scat Pack. What can I do PCM-wise that FCA won't complain about with warranty repairs? If you leave it stock, they will not complain about warranty repairs. Rick is asking, have you heard of Recluse wheels? Yes, almost got a set for my car. Was thinking of getting some 17s for the back and 18s for the front. Good way to go, and they're easy to swap out. So they're a lot easier than the Dark Stars. A little bit heavier, but easier to work with. So you gotta make that decision. CJ saying import lovers will be butthurt when they see my imports, and I'll have domestics too. Chris is saying feelings are meant to be hurt. That's why they're made. That's why you can hurt them. Rip's asking, how much power do you think I could gain from a PCM swap and a tune? Leaving it on 93 octane, cool down pass to cool down pass, you're looking at probably 40 horsepower. And that's about the best you can have. Because you got to remember, there are limits to what 93 octane can do in terms of supporting power on a car that's this heavy. Again, it's the weight of the car, not the ability to make the power, that you've got to work around. So that's the tough part. SRT8 Nate, what is the best power adder for a 6.1? Well, Nate, it depends on what you're going to be doing with the car. I would say the best power adder, I'm a huge fan of positive displacement superchargers. E-Force, keep it simple. You can go Whipple if you wanted to. I would not go ProCharger with that setup. It just depends on what you're doing with the car, but that's the way I would go. If you just want something fun, you can go with nitrous, but just remember that if you go cheap with nitrous, you will be going expensive on engine repair soon enough. So get the right parts, get the kit. Nitrous can be fun, but I don't know, man. If it's mine, for the 6.1. We're saying also, when I do get the PCM swap and the Trinity tuner, I would need to pay for a trans tune separately, right? Probably yes. Yes, because you are, well, at least with HP tuners, when you're going Trinity. But yeah, the trans tune on those is considered something separate typically. Asking, of all the late model Hemi motors, which one do you suggest? Hellcat. Dr. Diff, just use HP tuners, much better software. I agree. Hugh 3.7, do you feel any different about using methanol with a centrifugal supercharger rather than a positive displacement? The tuner I work with kept the tune conservative. I just don't like it, period, man. I hate to be that guy about it. I mean, you can still fire it aft of the supercharger, but then again, I mean, you're looking at a distribution issue, and you're not going to get even distribution typically. I mean, it'll be close. You know, a small shot, you'll probably be okay, but again, you don't want to run that stuff in front of the impellers on a centrifugal, because you've got such a high RPM, you can actually cause damage to the impellers if you're running too big of a shot, as you may imagine, right? So again, take this advice with a grain of salt, but only use it to cool the charge, and use it super sparingly, man. You don't want to over octane the engine. You don't want to over spray the engine. You certainly don't want to hydrolyte the engine. But if you use it sparingly, small shots, that's where it works. It doesn't work in big shots. In fact, it hurts you more than anything else. Let's see. Oh, Dr. just saying E-Force, Whipple, or nitrous. Absolutely. Chris is asking, what do you think about the EPA new rules and laws about tuning for 2007 and up on diesel trucks? I think the laws are pretty crazy. You got to watch out for this stuff too, guys. If y'all, it hits diesels a lot harder than it does gas. But I'm not that well versed, but I know that they made some changes and things got real aggressive for guys that have been tuning. So just know that coming into it. I think it's too bad though. But the diesel guys get a lot of attention, especially if y'all want to row coal, man. That's that pisses a lot of people off, so they're getting a lot of attention. They don't really pay a lot of attention to guys with a loud car. Slash is saying, with the right turbo setup on the 392, you also do 100 shot of nitrous. Sure, do 100 shot of nitrous on anything, provided the bottom end is built enough to cover it. So yeah. Sam Grable's asking, do I like the Pentastar? Not really. I mean, it's a 6-cylinder and a heavy car. It'd be cool if it was like a 4.2 liter, but then you get into secondary harmonics issues with a V6 that big. I'd love it if they made it a turbo from the factory. That's the other thing that would make that engine really cool. But they don't. Ed's asking, any advice for someone with a 2008 5.7 300C? Yeah, exhaust is going to be your new best friend along with a tune. But aside from that, I really wouldn't go any farther with the car than that. You might hit it with a 75 shot or something like that. But that would be as far as I would take that setup. But it does need an exhaust, so go that route for sure. HU37, I direct directly into the intake. Beautiful. That's the only way to do it, in my opinion. Let's see. Riff saying SRT Nate, I put a Procharger on my 2008 SRT automatic and it felt really good, but then I also put a Procharger on my 09 SRT8 with a 6-speed and it felt very sluggish. Yes. Very common thing that you hear about Procharge cars is that they feel sluggish. They make all their power up top, they don't make a lot of torque, and you can't really spin them hard enough to make any real big boost numbers. So Sam's talking about, I wish there would be an SRT6 version of the Pacifica. Okay, cool. SRT anything these days. Catalyst is saying, do you think they should bring back the Dodge Dart Swinger and with what engine configuration? You know, I don't know that they would. You know, the intermediate size cars just aren't doing that great, or have characteristically not done that great. It'd be cool to see some other flavor though. But you know, if they brought back something like that, you know, in a smaller, like let's say they did away with the Challenger and brought something more like, you know, a Dart or something like that to market, then, you know, all aluminum 392 would be right up my alley. Let's see. Go 74, just checking in. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well too, man. Rift saying, so now that I have the money to get the PCM swap and the Trinity tuner for my Hellcat, would it be worth it to just throw a tune on it along with the transmission, or should I just go to the transmission tune? You have to do both, realistically, to get the most out of it. So, and really, you do still have to tune the engine to do a transmission tune. There's some rev limits you got to play with in there. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I say go for it. Can tunes aren't that bad. Oh, Ruth saying, all he asked because I noticed you did just a T tune. Yeah, but there's still some things on the engine side that you got to change. So that's why I just did that. Let's see, I got time for one more and then I got to bounce. David Moore saying, I've got a 2011 Dodge Challenger 392. What gains will I see with the ported intake manifold and ported throttle body? My current setup is long tube headers, exhaust, cold air intake, and a race gas tune. All right, so depends on who does the ported intake manifold. If it's not me doing your intake, then I would say Peak Speed does a good job with it. Obviously, you guys hear me talking about Fastman throttle bodies. But that should net you somewhere around 8 horsepower, about 8 foot-pounds of torque on average. Now, let's talk about that cold air that you got. Probably not doing you a whole lot of favors, but it's probably not hurting you either, so there's that. But it just depends, like I say, getting back to the intake manifold and throttle body, all depends on who's done the port, because if it's just a light touch-up on the runners and that's it, you might not get that much, but it's also going to depend on how bad a shape those runners are to begin with. Let's see. All right, guys, that is it for me. If I missed you, I'll have to catch you on the next one, coming up on an hour and a half, and I got stuff I got to get done still tonight. So thank you all very much for hanging out with me. I truly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. If you got any questions, hit me up then. And that's a wrap on this, and y'all have a great one. Adios.